Hello and welcome. My name is Doreen Cumberford. Here I am with Nomadic Diaries. Today it is my privilege to be interviewing Linda Mueller, who was my co-host on the subject of repatriation. There were 30 episodes last year, so you may recognize her voice. So without any more further ado, here is Linda Mueller, the Expat Partner Coach. Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to see you and to listen to your wisdom. We're looking for a few good mic drops today.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to be here. It's nice to be back.
Why does someone who apparently has a great big life and seems to have it all, why would they need a coach, please?
Well, I usually see with my clients, there's sort of two buckets. There's the people that are stuck and they're reacting to the situation that they're in. Either they're feeling like something's missing, or they're feeling guilty because they should be living this big life and they're not, or they think everyone else around them is. So it's more of a crisis situation or a stuck, unhappy situation. But then the other bucket is people that are being proactive. And a couple examples of that are people that know they have a transition coming up. They know that they're going abroad for the first or the 15th time, or they know they're moving back home and they want someone to partner with them because they realize that there's an easier way to do it. They can learn from somebody else's wisdom and have somebody help them figure out what's best for themselves, which we know is the essence of coaching. And then the other side of it is like some people move. And for example, when I was moving abroad the first time, I was thinking like, okay, I want to hold on to my career, but I also look at this as a huge opportunity. What do I want to do with it? And that was one of the reasons why I worked with a coach originally.
So, in my experience, I've also noticed that not just expats, I mean, all of us, humanity in general, right? Because expats are humans like the rest of us. But sometimes we're a bit nervous or resistant or avoidant to entering the coaching. So tell us about what are the ways that we can help people over, how do you help people to move over that hurdle to conquer their own resistance and create willingness to be coached?
That's a really good question. I think part of it is just trying to show people who I am so that they feel at ease. I try to share a little bit about my experience because what I've seen is that a lot of people that come to me have something in common with me, or there's something about my experience that they connect with. But I will say that I find that interesting because I don't talk about myself in coaching sessions. I give a bit of an intro during our introductory call so that people know who I am. And I
Right.
put it out there on social media, but in our coaching sessions, it's not about me at all. I mean, there's times when I will, say, oh, I'm putting on my mentor hat and I will answer a question that a client has. But I think that, to help them overcome the resistance, is just building that comfort with me. And
Yes.
then also trying to give them the sense that and I also tell them directly that I'm creating a space that is safe, it's confidential, and it's non-judgmental. And I think,
Right.
because it comes down to vulnerability, right? Like people are afraid of being vulnerable.
Sure.
So if you make
Sure.
them comfortable with that, that makes it a lot easier for them to take that step to move into coaching.
Sure, I think that makes a lot of sense to help people feel at ease and comfortable with you, but also comfortable that they are making a good decision for themselves that is going to move themselves forward. Because they have to feel like there's a gap. There has to be a gap between where they are and where they want to go, right?
Right. And sometimes they don't even know where they want to go. And that's where the stuck comes in. And so giving them that confidence that I'm
Mm.
the one that can help them figure out where it is they want to go, because it doesn't matter where I think they should go. I actually don't think anything about what my clients should do. I try to stay very detached from the outcome, but giving them that confidence that I can sort of build this cup, this like environment.
Container, a container.
Thank you. Nobody can see us, but I'm doing it with my hands. But just so that they can feel free to express themselves and be honest about what they really want for themselves versus what they think society wants for them, or, their family, whoever it may be.
Yeah. And I think the word container is just another another word term for structure
Mhm.
or course or framework or process. I mean, there's a lot of these words that apply to this. And in coaching, it seems like I hear container a lot.
Right, right, right. Yeah, so we're comfortable with that as coaches, but I don't know if
Actually.
oh, tell us in the comments. Do you what does container mean to you?
Yeah, exactly. We'd love to hear from you listeners as to what do you think about the word container, and should we be moving on to another another term? So, my impression, the more I journey down this expat road, and I have to admit, it's 50 years this year. It just dawned on me, 50 years this year. I think I should start celebrating or commiserating or both at once. But I feel like, you know, most of the expats I've met, you're all very adventurous and they want to live a bigger life. There's a sense of life and energy pushing through us, right? Where we want to go and we want to live and we want to experience and we want to see and we want to taste. Yeah. So
Yeah.
how do you address the kind of pressure that some expats put on themselves when they're trying to, make it look like we're living this great life and we're being quote unquote successful in our international experience? Um, do you see pressure?
I do. And I see, everything's a spectrum in my opinion. So, I mean, there are the people that embrace their expat experience and they're like, I want to go and live abroad and live this big life and explore and integrate with the culture, et cetera. But you also don't know what you don't know. And so sometimes those people arrive at their destination and they kind of hit a wall. There's other people that kind of dip a toe in. Maybe it's kind of out of their control that they're moving or they've chosen to move, but they weren't really excited about it. They made the decision for other reasons. And, some of them need a little help to get going, but some of them also get over there and they say, oh, wait, what was I nervous about? Like, this is amazing. I love it. So,
Mm,
you've got the culture shock when you first arrive and you don't really
right.
get I look at it sort of like a hurricane. Like everyone kind of gets jumbled up in there, and then when the initial culture shock ends, you don't know where you're going to end up because back to the whole you don't know what you don't know. And I think some of a good experience abroad has to do with luck. Like, did you meet a great group of people and fall into it? But I also am a firm believer that luck is sort of preparation or desire meeting opportunity. So we can create our own luck. There is a spectrum of ways that people feel about it. And you also, because you don't know what you don't know, it's like it could change in a heartbeat. So I think that's one of the great things about coaching and therapy is that there are people out there that can help us and like help us move through that stuck feeling or that like, what am I doing here feeling?
So you're the expat partner coach. Talk to me about expat partners. What are some of uh, the symbols that, symbolize whether you're following or trailing or accompanying or any of these words that we hate?
Well, I chose that focus because that's what I have been for the bulk of my time living abroad. But I
Mhm.
have also lived abroad as a student, as well, I wasn't living abroad, but I traveled extensively abroad as a corporate person. But I just felt that at one point, I just felt like, you know what? There's so many really talented and educated and interesting women out there that choose to move for a variety of reasons to accompany their partner and they like you said like the pressure like they feel the pressure to live this big life or they feel the pressure to continue to contribute to their family financially and they're responsible for all of the setup and the finding the doctors and finding the friends and so it's a really I would argue it's one of the most challenging roles to play in the world of global mobility because a lot of times people move the husband goes off to the big new job. The kids, if there are any, go off to the international school. And it's the partner who's left to find purpose, be it paid or otherwise, to do the
Yeah.
mundane tasks of setting up the cable and making sure they're getting the mail and finding the groceries and buying the right groceries and everything else. And so that's why I focused on the partner, because I think it's one of the most challenging roles to play. And it can be one of the most rewarding because it can be a way to recreate your lifestyle or even experiment with who you are and who you want to be.
That's a great way to put it, actually. And so what other specific pressures can the accompanying spouses experience?
Well, I think there's the pressure to show your friends back home that you're having a great time and you're living this big life because they just think that you're on vacation. They don't want to hear you complain about the stresses you're under. So there's that pressure. I think there's often pressure to create a life because you've put all your eggs in the basket of your partner's career. And if you're not happy and the kids aren't happy, then what's going to happen to his career? Um,
Yes.
I think there's also the pressure of, maybe you were caring for elderly parents or somebody else back home and then you're gone. And it's like that pressure of like maintaining those relationships and
Hmm.
also, providing care and connection from abroad. Um, there can be pressure to have to jump back into your role when you return. And so what do you do during that time that you're abroad? Either really enjoy it and try something new or to keep your skills sharp so that you are still valuable. Um, I'm going blank. What do you see? What pressures have you seen along the way?
No, I think those are probably the most obvious, the most prominent ones are things like um, our identity and
Mhm.
who are we becoming and what is our purpose in life and how are you going to sort out your purpose in life and how can you contribute to a life moving forward and how are you building a vision for your family and have you made all these have you done all these conversations, have you had these conversations, because it seems like those are all related, and each of those subjects can feel like a little bit of pressure.
Mhm. For sure. And then there's the guilt issue, the guilt
Guilt.
of leaving people behind, the guilt of, oh, everyone thinks everyone around me is having fun and I'm not. Everyone back home thinks I'm living this life and I'm not, or my partner, everybody, what does everybody think? So like you start to feel guilty that you're maybe not fulfilling these expectations, these external expectations. And then there's also, I think an important one to talk about is the pressure we just put on ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially if you have had a career or are giving up a career of some sort. What sort of coping strategies have you seen expats employ or deploy that are the most accessible for people?
So many of the things that we say to ourselves, we would never say to other people that we love, our best friend, whoever it may be. Just being kind to yourself. Maybe you have a list of 10 things that quote unquote need to get done. But if you get one or two of them done and they took you all the free time that you had, like that is something to celebrate because it's progress. Action is an amazing coping mechanism. When you're feeling stuck, taking a little bit of action will get you a long way because you'll start to build momentum. Really being intentional about when you're stressed and you're feeling lonely, it's easy to adapt unhealthy habits, but to say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to get up every day when I have a little bit of alone time. I'm going to get out in the sun and I'm going to walk for 10 minutes. I'm going to walk. Maybe the 10 minutes turns into 15, but like adapting, really focusing on having a couple healthy habits, like
Hmm.
making yourself, and like another one is just sort of the adapting or like getting used to making yourself be mindful. So taking a minute, like when you're really stressed and you feel like everything's caving in on you, take a minute to take a deep breath. And it's amazing what that can do. As a type A former corporate climber, I wish I would have learned that years ago because it really
Yeah,
just gives your body and your mind a second to reset.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um, So, sort of taking a left turn here, these are great tips. You've given the listeners great tips and things like just becoming very centered and taking a deep breath, doing what's easiest and what's right in front of you. Those are great steps. And I think it's just building a sense of momentum because once we get momentum, momentum can take you all around the globe. And baby steps can do the same thing because, it builds. So we've had a lot of conversations about mental health challenges and short-term, long-term expats, people who are feeling a little like they don't belong fully at home. They don't belong where they are. They feel like they're living in this liminal space, we call it, or this in-between worlds. How does the our identity and that sense of identity fit into this? Because a lot of people say, "Oh, I feel like I've lost my identity." Do you think that this is the primary problem for accompanying expats, or do you think it's not so important?
No, I think it's very important. I mean, you mentioned long-term expats, and I think
Mhm.
that um, a great way to deal with feeling like you don't belong is to find other people that have similar experience. Because there's a lot of us out there. Like a lot of times we feel like we're the only one. We feel lonely. We feel isolated,
Yeah,
but there really are other people out there. And wherever you're living, I mean, maybe if, I'm in a big city, so I can hang around with other people that have lived a life similar to mine in some way. But there's also a lot of online resources like online groups and whatnot that you can join just to have that outlet where you can be yourself. You can make a statement and the people say, "Oh, I get it." They don't look at you like, "What are you talking about? You're ungrateful." So I think there's that aspect. And I think the other two things that come to mind when I heard you describing that situation is one, getting clear on who you are and what's important to you. Because the more clear we are on who we are, the easier it is to flow through life and flow through different crowds because we feel comfortable and confident with who we are and what we like and what we're willing to put up with and what we're not, the boundary management issue. And then the last one is to just decide what home means to you because it can mean something different to everyone. And, I'm living in a city now that is home for my 15-year-old, but it's not home for me or my husband. It's our family home. So
yes.
we kind of had to create our own definition of home. And I think that's important. I've heard a lot of different longtime expats throw out different definitions, but it's personal. So you have to think like, is it wherever your immediate family is, that's home? Is it where a few of your prized possessions are? You feel like you're at home because it looks like home. It's really can be different for everybody. And
So do we conflate the idea of home and belonging? I mean, I think of home as is a space or a dwelling or, some sort of protection. Um, but I hear in the conversation out there that there's a lot of confusion about belonging and home. So you three share a home, but it's interesting because your daughter has a greater sense of belonging. Would that be accurate?
I think that would be accurate. I mean, to her, the first place she really remembers living is Chicago. So this whole environment of the city is like embedded in who she is. And
Yes,
whereas I, as an adult who has lived in so many different states and cities and countries, like I look at home as more of, okay, where's my husband? Where's my daughter? There's like
yes,
two senses of home, right? It's the physical, which I've decorated the structure around me. I mean, these things on the wall behind me were a sayonara gift when I left Japan and they're
yeah,
from Australia. But, so there's the physical part of home, but then there's also the home that we build within ourselves.
exactly. Interesting. And so cultural identity then does play a role in mental health challenges, right?
I would say so. I'm definitely not an expert on it. I mean, I think that's something that, some highly trained intercultural specialists.
Sure, but I think that in the realm of expatriation and all these expat lanes, there's more and more people who are experimenting with the different types of lifestyles. There's
Mhm.
lots of different types of lifestyles now. There's the short-term nomad, the long-term nomads. There's the nomads with kids, or who are world schooling or involved in other ways of being. And
Mhm.
I think that in coaching, it's really important to sort of sort through all this. It's like, what are we really talking about? Um, so tell me about how you help expat clients. How do you help them maintain and build their relationships? Can they build their relationships with family, even although family is distant?
Yes, and I actually think it's really important that we do that. family and close friends, I always encourage clients to pick a core group of people that they really want to keep in touch with as if they were living in the same location. So
Mhm.
it's obviously not going to be everybody, but pick those important people. And I think it's important to talk to those people about how they want to be kept in touch with, because
Yeah.
that can really cause angst when you have different ideas of how you're going to keep in touch, the frequency, because keeping in touch can be like, oh, I was just at the market and I saw this, and you take a quick picture and send it and say, and I thought of you. Like, that's a point of contact.
It
Or
is.
sitting down over Zoom and having a 2-hour conversation. So there's a wide range of ways to keep in touch. I think, the ideal way to keep in touch is to have some regular visits with your close
Yes.
people, to actually have them come and visit you to see what your life is like. And then, and or for you to go back
Yes.
to see them, because there's nothing that really beats that in-person contact when it's possible.
Absolutely. It's absolutely critical to do that, isn't it? So we've talked a lot about the why. We've talked about why expats might seek coaching. We've talked about why we might be avoidant or resistant to it. We've talked about how you help address perfectionism and the pressure of perhaps trying to juggle lives and lifestyles in between two worlds. And we've talked about coping strategies and how identity belongs in here. So let's take sort of a left turn and talk about the how.
Okay.
So, um, what role does technology play in providing coaching support to the globally mobile community? Because we know it has changed over the years. So tell me why is it different now? And do you love this?
I think, like with everything, it's a bit of a mixed blessing. I mean, I was certified in life coaching in 2012. So we were doing, phone calls originally. I mean, my
Yes,
first coaching was in person, which I thought was important, but I've really come to depend on technology and see the benefits of it. Uh,
yes,
it's more efficient for everyone because, one of the clients I'm working with now is splitting her time in different continents. And so we are able to keep in touch wherever she is. And, so I think Zoom is great because I used to really appreciate that when I was on a call with a client, that they felt in a way like they could be more open and honest. Some of them told me because they didn't see my face, they were just talking to me. But what I really appreciate is with the video, I can actually see facial expressions. I can read their energy as I see if they're talking with their hands or they're answering me with words, but their facial expression and their motions tell me something different. So I think it's a blessing. And it also, in between sessions, it's so great. Like a client one of the things I offer is I offer them support in between sessions via text or, WhatsApp. They can send me a voice message. I mean, I'll have clients send me a picture and say, look what I did. And it's so nice to actually see a picture,
right.
just
Mm-hmm.
have them. So I think all of that to say that it's actually really enriched the coaching relationship and made it like a closer bond and a more firm container, if we want to pull that word out again.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, you touched on several points there that I think really are very supportive for the globally mobile communities. And thank goodness for technology because we wouldn't be doing this today, would we?
Right. That's right. I love it.
So here's the big question. And you and I have talked about this question a lot, and many of us, or many people I've talked to, seem to be confused about the distinctions between coaching and therapy. What do you see the continuum as being between coaching and therapy?
Here's how I describe it. In my introductory session with clients before we even start working together, I always ask them if they know the difference, if they've worked with a therapist or a coach, because I think it's so important that they know what they're getting into. Um,
Yes.
so I describe it as two overlapping circles, with
Mm,
therapy being on the left, coaching being on the right, whereas therapy is looking at your history and trying to help you heal from whatever mental health issues you may have. And coaching is very action oriented, future oriented, where you're setting goals and the coach is your cheerleader, is your accountability partner, pushes you to step outside of your comfort zone with questions, and by being like really laser focused in on what you as a client are saying, and actually maybe bringing some awareness to things that you don't even realize you're saying over time. But then that overlapping part is where we have some commonalities, where we, bringing up the word container again, we both, a therapist and a coach, create a container that is, you feel safe, you can be open, there's no judgment. And I think that's where the overlap is. Sometimes with coaching, it's helpful to look at your past if you're trying to break through a limiting belief,
Yes.
understand why you're stuck, sort of digging in and understanding what happened to you that's creating that in your life is important. But I will tell you, some of my favorite clients have been people that have been through therapy and or were currently in therapy while we were working together, because
Yes.
those are the people that have healed to the extent where they're ready to take action. And at
Yes.
the same time, one of the reasons why I really encourage people that call me for an introductory call to speak to several coaches and to make sure there's a good fit is that some coaches will do things that are really more therapy. So it's important to work with a certified coach, to
Mm.
somebody that is trained to identify when they're stepping outside of what they're accredited or certified to do and to handle, because you can really do a lot of damage if you're doing therapy when you're not a therapist, a trained licensed
Yes.
therapist. So
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
And it's important for coaches to refer some clients to therapists when they find that, oh, this is just beyond my understanding or skill set, because the training is so different, isn't it?
It is. And actually, it really helps the coaching relationship if somebody that needs therapy is in therapy, because there's times with my own clients when they'll bring something up and kind of start to go down a path, and I'll say, you know what, that's a really good one to bring up with your therapist in your next session, because that is one of the, it's therapist, it's like an unlicensed, sorry, I'm saying it backwards. Coaching is an unlicensed
Type of
um
therapy.
profession. And
Mm.
so if you're not careful, you could end up getting yourself in a situation where someone's giving you advice or guidance that's could be more damaging than
Yeah.
helpful.
So would it be fair to say that I used to tell clients that therapy was like archaeology, where you were digging into the past, but that coaching is like architecture, where you're building a new construction and you're putting down, laying the plans and the foundation, and taking the action and the steps to build the house,
I
right?
like
Now that
that.
you've actually excavated it.
I might need to borrow that. Yes.
Uh-oh. You're welcome. And how would one know how to choose which version of care?
Well, that's a good question. And I'm sure there's like a official answer to that. But I do think some of it is, your intuition is like, what do you feel
Mm.
that you need? Like if there's things from your past that are really holding you back, you find yourself with, repeated unhealthy behaviors that are maybe stemming from something in your past, or you feel just really weighed down, maybe from your family of origin or whatever, something that happened to you, that's therapy. I think if you're just feeling like, I just need someone to help me get up and go, or help me get some clarity around what I really want to do, and you're thinking more future oriented, that is,
Coaching.
but also that's why I think it's really important to work with certified coaches, because if you go in and speak to someone that is a good coach, when they hear what you're saying, your story is, what your issues are, they will tell you that they think that you could use a therapist. And the thing that's amazing is over time, there wasn't this back in the day, but now there are therapists that specialize in people that live a globally mobile lifestyle. So
Yeah.
no matter what your issue is, you layer the global mobility on top of it. And these people, most of them have experienced it themselves to some extent and can really support you strongly.
So what do you think expats we should be looking for in a coaching relationship? And I can tell you from experience what not to be looking for, but let's start with what do
Oh,
you
okay,
what
let's
do
start
you
with
want?
that. Um, Well, I brought it up earlier. I do think that fit is very important. There are so many coaches out there, and if you don't click, if you don't feel like the person gets you, or it might be hard to make progress. So I think fit is one, but I do think qualifications, however you want to define that, are
Right.
important. So I
Yeah.
often recommend to people that they, search for whatever they think their issue is, or, the topic that they want to be coached around, with the word coach or even mentor, because maybe they want someone to mentor them instead of actually
Sure.
coach them, and see what comes up. And just by following people, I think there's the whole know, like, trust. Like, you can jump right in and do an introductory call with somebody, or you can, maybe follow somebody for a little bit on social media and just get a feel for who they are and what they represent. That's another reason that technology is so amazing, is you can learn a lot about people. You can listen to them on a podcast. You can read what they've written and really get to know them.
Yes. And long form podcasts like this are the best way to get to know someone, right? So we've covered the where, and you can do it in person if you have someone in your neighborhood, but you can also do it online. I think that's pretty complete.
Right.
And when is the best time to find a coach as an expat?
Well, circle back to what I said earlier about being reactive and proactive. So I think the obvious one is, if you're stuck and you're miserable and, or, whatever, however you're feeling, like if you really feel like I need help, then you should really ask yourself, do I think I need therapy? Do I think I need a coach? And search around and find somebody that you think can help you. And with therapists and with coaches, it's the same thing. You do need to find that fit. So doing a bit of research, maybe asking friends, like if you see someone around that seems to really be like living a life that you'd want to live, talk to them casually and just sort of find out how they created it. Maybe they worked with a coach or a therapist they could refer you to. Um,
Sure.
Now, the other side of it, the proactive side of it, which can be a lot of fun, is somebody that knows they have a transition coming up and they want someone to walk with them through it and help them create a smoother transition than it would be on their own if they were trying to, quote unquote, reinvent the wheel. They want a little bit of a cheerleader to help them maybe when things get tough. That's one reason to get a coach. And then the other one is, some of us move abroad or move back home and we are like, wait a second, this is a whole new chapter for me. What do I want to do with it? And hire a coach to help you so that you can create this new chapter with intention and be very
Yes.
clear on what you want as you go get it.
Yeah, I think that's a very good place to end actually, because having someone to partner with you, someone like you who is so keen and so passionate about the topic and so well versed in the topic, and also has the chutzpah and who's done all of the background work in order to be certified. I think that can absolutely create a magical experience in people's lives, because then they can create a vision and they can consistently build on that vision.
Yes, thank you. I mean, honestly, when people ask me why I got into coaching, one of the core reasons is because I struggled a lot. I have such fond memories of all my the different chapters of life and whatnot, but I think it was a lot harder at some points than it needed to be. So I want to be that person that I always wished I could have. And at one point I did have a coach, and she really helped me see life through a completely different lens. And I'm so grateful for that. So that's what I
Yes.
try to do. I try to be that person.
Excellent. Thank you. Now, you heard it here on Nomadic Diaries. This is Linda Mueller, the Expat Partner Coach. And if you would please like, listen, or connect with us, we would love it. And so thank you, Linda. And this is Doreen signing off with Sayonara, Masalama, and Hasta luego. If you've enjoyed or gotten some benefit from Nomadic Diaries, would you please do me a favor and tell an expat, tell a nomad, or tell someone in the globally mobile communities? This is the way we will be able to sustain the podcast and grow our audience. Thank you so much for listening in. Our mission statement is that we provide our listeners the fodder and the information in order to develop the mindset, practical skills, and the motivation to not just survive, but truly thrive in your supersized life abroad. We hope to help you turn the challenges of distance and cultural differences into opportunities for amazing personal growth and deep sense of belonging.